Hey, what is up, guys? This is Eric and Sean with OzoneTCG. Today we're taking a look at the YCS Latin America Remote Duel Top 32 deck breakdown. So let's get right into it. But before we do, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for future TCG Advanced Format comments and videos. We're taking a look at this really because it's the end of the format, and we don't expect there to be another major event before this next banlist drops. That's really the crux of it, is that we're just in between everything. We're just waiting for a new list. But yeah, let's get on into it. So we have, of course, Sword Soul taking 9 spots. Nothing else to really nothing to say about it. 6 of them were Tenyi though. Only 6 were Tenyi and 3 were pure. It's a little bit interesting. Not sure if they were playing DP. I don't think we have all the data on that. I think at least one of them or 2 of them were playing that. And it's pretty expected they would take about 28% of the top cut. At this point, it's just Protoss, really, with the most representation, because Protoss does do quite a lot in this deck.
It does.
That's about it. Otherwise, Tri Brigade, a little bit different than last time with the North American one. We had Tri Brigade at 7 spots, so almost 22%. 4 were on Lyrilusk, and at least I think 3 were actually on DPE. So it was a 3 on DPE, which was really interesting because I don't think any of them were on the Zodiac version. And the Zodiac we saw in the North American one was the other version or variant that they were playing, most players were playing. With Lyrilusk, of course, being the number one, but it's very different now as far as the spread, because it's almost, it's as close as a half and half you can get to an odd number, in this case. Why do you think, Sean, that it would be like that? I don't know if there's a reason other than DP just being insane.
I have no idea, to be honest.
Okay, yeah. That's okay. Cool. Okay, so then we have Invoked. And this is what I said last time, is that I thought Invoked would be the better deck compared to something like Striker or Virtual World or Phantom Knights. We saw Invoked with 4 top spots. 3 of which were playing like Dogma versions, and 1 being the Eldritch Invoke deck. They were all playing DP. Every single one played DP. You kind of have to. It's kind of mandatory, especially in your fusion deck anyway. So you kind of have to. That's expected. The Eldritch version, I'm not sure why people are playing this over.
Eldritch Invoked is like, I don't know why specifically, but Latin America just loves Eldritch Invoked. I know Andres Torres also played it at one point, I'm going to say.
Okay.
But I remember at the start, many formats ago, they just loved this deck so much. Okay. But Invoked has been popping off a lot this format. I think it just got done winning the European YCS too.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, it was the North America December YCS, Remote Duel YCS. It just won.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah.
That just happened this weekend. And then there was another event where Invoked won. I don't remember which one that was, but that's 2 different YCSs Invoked has won at this point.
I think Invoked won the North American one, but I'm not positive.
Oh, so both North American ones?
I think so, yeah.
Really?
The top cut that took place over this weekend. I know Sword Soul Tenyi took Europe this weekend as well.
Yeah.
So, okay, yeah, that's really interesting. So I guess it's just a preference for these slower kind of decks, which would make sense. If Latin America does tend to prefer, more grindy or control decks, that makes sense why Sword Soul Pure and Tri Brigade DPE versions both saw quite a bit of more representation than their North American counterparts, even European counterparts. That would explain a lot, especially with the more grindy decks or decks that have decent grind game. Striker, even Fluwanderees, Evil Twins, and Prank Kids, stuff like that. So then of course Striker had the 2 in representation. Both obviously played DP. I think that's the only reason why this deck's seeing play right now. It just pushes it. Really, most decks that aren't playing, Sword Soul, of course, are playing DP, generally speaking. Or unless you're Tri Brigade, and you're playing mostly.
I think top 2 has been solidified now between Sword Soul and Tri Brigade.
Yep.
Lyrilusk. I think 3rd place was like basically a tie between Invoked and Striker, but I think a lot of people can generally agree that Invoked was the 3rd best deck of the format.
Yeah, I think I agree with that too. Yeah, especially not considering the North American YCS results. Like I said in our previous video, our previous YCS breakdown, I thought that was definitely the 3rd best deck of the format.
It's crazy to see.
Yeah, which, I would have never guessed, maybe a year ago that Invoked of all decks would have been, top tier. But, DP just does it. Like, it's just that good. Especially because you can just destroy a card for free on DP summon with Meltdown, and they just can't do anything about it. I think that interaction does help a lot. So we can go on to Virtual World. I said last time I think Virtual World should have gotten more spots. It did in the Latin American version, but or Latin America YCS rather. Only by one though, and they were both pure. I don't believe either of them actually played Sword Soul at all. So it was more of a pure version. I do know that they were playing like Gamma in the main, and Nibiru in the main, all of those cards. So pretty much what we saw most of the beginning of last year. Minus Calamities, of course. Nothing else to really say about them. And then the Phantom Knights. This one was interesting. So we didn't see any Phantom Knights in top 32 for the North American YCS. I don't remember about the European one. But this was interesting because DP, Scythe, Dagda, those are the three main cards in the Phantom Knights deck. But one of them was playing Dragoon. And I assume that the other one was playing the Scythe DP combo. But it was really interesting to see the Dragoon.
I've seen this a bit where they actually play Dragoon over DP. I don't know what that's about, but it's not the first time I've seen this happen.
Right. I just find it really interesting that at least, for the past almost 4 months at this point, the Scythe DP version has just been pretty much objectively the best version of the deck to play. Playing the fewest bricks, or at least playing the fewest dead cards in your deck. Like I said, if you can, and we all know if you draw Fusion Destiny, it's not a brick anymore. Well, it's not a Garnet specifically for Verde Anaconda. You could still actually activate just Fusion Destiny straight up. It's very interesting.
A release of Grand Creators this weekend, we're probably going to start seeing this deck a lot more, unless a banlist nerfs this deck significantly. I don't know.
Which I could see it. I could see it happening, but really, it is literally all up to if we get a list this week. I know that there were a lot of rumors floating around that we would get a list this week. I don't remember which YCS it was because they live streamed it, and there were a few people talking about on stream. Some of the representatives were saying, "Oh well, they're really if there's a ban list this week, then you could see a change of the game." And usually, unless something is happening, Konami tends to keep quiet about that kind of stuff. So I could see it. A little tangent about it, but just interesting trends. But okay, and then we have Drytron, and only one of them was playing DP. Also a little surprising. I would have thought that both decks would have played DP. I'm sure the other one was just pretty standard Drytron we've seen in the past, almost for the past year at this point, over a year, which kind of crazy to think. This deck's been out so long already. There's nothing else to say about it. It's pretty much expected to even see a little bit of representation. The next 4 decks, or 3 types of decks, really interesting to see in Top Cut though. First is Fluanderees.
I'm very excited for this deck to be in Top Cut because this deck I think is a really underrated deck.
Yeah, well, especially with the new Battle of Chaos card, that it's a quick play searcher for your monsters or your field spell. This does have a lot of potential to grow, especially with a list. I don't necessarily think it's one of the best decks. It could very well be in a later format, but this was interesting to see because we didn't see any of this in the North American Top Cut either. Just really
interesting. Not North America. I think Europe is the one who had the other Fluanderees.
Yep, I do know that. Yeah.
Which brings it up to I think a total of 3 this format.
Yep.
Which is kind of big,
for the deck that hasn't really done that much, at the YCS level, or the equivalent, the best equivalent of it as we can with this current format. I think that's definitely something to celebrate, especially, again, this goes back to the point where it's grindier decks, or decks that have a lot of turn 3 follow-ups that Latin America tends to prefer. I don't know if it's a trend. Maybe once we take a look at a list and take a look at the next Latin America YCSs, whether they be in person or remote duels, if this trend continues, because I think this could, be the start of something. And then we have Evil Twins 1. I don't know how this stuck in top spot. I personally don't think this is that great of a deck. It's cool, don't get me wrong. It just doesn't feel like does enough compared to everything else.
Kind of just squeaked in there.
Yeah. Same with Prank Kids. We'll talk about that too. But Prank Kids and Evil Twins, very similar decks where you just need the 1-card combos. You play, 15 defensive cards, whether it be hand traps, forbidden droplets, anything like that. Even Dark Ruler no more theoretically could play that in like Prank Kids. Very similar decks that have those 1-card combos into your link line plays. Again, the grindy has a lot of resources turn 3 if everything goes according to plan. That Latin America definitely prefers. We really haven't seen Prank Kids be doing anything for the past few months since Meow Mew went to won this previous list, which still think it was a random hit. But as far as the format goes, a lot of people have just written off this deck because of that hit. I think it just plays like it used to before we had Meow. Now that you do have Meow, at least turn 1. Just interesting to see that as well. I'm not sure if that's what it was. I know that this deck didn't play DP at all, which was also very interesting. It just played like Go second cards, played Triple Mystic Mine in the main. I think it played either Nibiru or Dark Ruler no more, and Droplets all in the main, Impermanence, Ash, I think Valor as well, but I'm not positive. It just played straight 3-ofs, played a couple tech cards just to go in with the defensive strategy, and it seemed to have paid off at least for one player, which is cool. And there was also a really interesting tech that the Strikers players, I think, or a few people played. Well, there were 2.
Yeah.
I guess one of them was kind of a tech. It's Crossout Designator. Specifically, I don't know how many Sword Soul players was, and I don't know if they did it in Europe as well. But I know a couple of the players were on Crossout, specifically because they were expecting a lot of mirror cards or Fusion Destiny decks in Top Cut.
Yeah, I think Fluander was on it. I know one of the Tri Brigades was on it at least.
Yeah.
Trying to think of another deck. I know another special card was Shared Ride that was in Striker.
Yeah.
He made 3 of it.
Yeah, it's like a OG tech from 2018 when Striker came out. People would play that for the mirror because you would stop your opponent. It was not maxi exactly for the deck, or for the mirror rather, but it was very close to it.
Yeah. Oh, it was in Invoked also. Crossout was really big this tournament.
Oh my god, especially if you go first, you have Crossout and your opponent interrupts you, whatever, and then you cross out their Fusion Destiny. That seems really good. I think that card is going to go up in price and usability because of assuming that the list hits a lot of current decks, or makes the format a little bit more homogenous, where we see a lot fewer decks represented in the format. That's when that card really shines, and I think a lot of the tendencies again tend to be to hit those Fusion Destinies.
Yeah, this tournament had a lot of spicy techs, I think. I know for certain the Eldritch Invoke deck was main decking Super Pulley.
Oh, interesting. I didn't even see that. Wow.
Maybe it was for the mirror match, because
probably.
I mean, he was playing Starving Venom, but it's just really cool.
Yeah, well, and that card's just strong. You can normal summon, I don't know, Alistair, interrupt their Protoss or whatever. Even against something like Evil Twins, you could use.
It was because of Elise. Okay, I see. That's funny. So for the mirror match, they would summon Invoked Elysium by fusing DP and Mecha Butt together. That's really cute.
And then they can't respond with DP, so they just lose it. Interesting.
It's crazy, and then it's also just a meta.
Yeah.
Wild.
I think we'll see stuff like that, tech, especially super probably with the Albaz Strike structure deck in April, because that's the beginning of the month. So basically, we're in the final 2 months before that deck's legal, and that's going to make a huge impact. I think it's going to make an impact, not necessarily a big one on release, but by the time Dimension Force comes out, we're going to see a lot, especially with Adventure Token getting support, the Therion's deck coming out, a lot of plant support as well, and then the rest of the other few Albaz cards. I think a lot of those push those decks to at least a tier 2, probably tier 1, some of the best decks of the format.
Yeah, I think these next 4 or 5 sets are actually really big in terms of competitive play.
Yep.
I know Battle of Chaos doesn't look that appealing at first, but I think there's a lot of good cards in that set.
Yeah.
Grand Creators, of course, everyone knows Brave Vision's insanely good.
Yep.
Albaz Structure deck is enough to make Despia tier 1 in the format.
Yep.
And Dimension Force is just enough to solidify other decks.
Yeah, especially with the crazy. Not to go too much on a tangent. I don't know why they gave Adventure Token a bounce too.
Oh yeah, no, that card is a lot better than I thought it was.
Just
I
for
thought for
fun.
sure that it would be like a side deck card at best, but it's seeing play in the main, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think this is a pretty good representation of the format, at least. Again, very end of the format. We're just waiting for a ban list this week, but I think this is pretty good. It's just a lot, I count out 10 decks, 10 different decks you could see in Top Cut. We haven't had this for a while. It's been a few years, at least, since we've seen anything close to this. I don't necessarily think it's the greatest thing. This is just me as my own preference. I don't necessarily like to see the 10 different decks that make siding way more difficult, and way less consistent as far as results go. But it is really cool to at least see a bunch of different strategies. Granted, most of the strategies are playing the Busted Verde Anaconda engine, but we'll see.
Yeah, DP is going insane right now.
Yeah, and really, like we said, if you're not playing DP, you're either on Tri Brigade or Sword Soul, and that's basically it. Or Fluonderies, or even Evil Twin, where your cards are too xenophobic to really play, but. Yeah, you kind of have to otherwise, or have some kind of built-in counter like Virtual World does to DP, where you can just float, prevent destruction, or banish cards on the field with Shen, stuff like that. Yeah, it's really kind of the format. So I think it was okay. A lot of ridiculous power cards. Protoss #1, Scythe #2. People say Imperial Order, sure, okay. Number 3. As far as it, but I'm interested to see the next format, especially with Adventure Token coming out and Battle of Chaos. So yeah, any other thoughts?
Not so much. I'm just ready for a ban list to come and just shake things up finally.
Yeah, we'll have a full analysis of what we think is good once the ban list drops. We'll have a reaction and then some kind of meta report to see what will be good. Especially if it's going to be a bigger ban list like the beginning of 2020, where a lot of decks were hit and most of the format was just pushed out entirely. So stay on the lookout for that. We're hoping new list will be out this week. So yeah, this is Eric and Sean with OzoneTCG. We'll see you guys in the next one.